Charlie. So welcome to Avoch, or Och as they call it around here, for the Andrew de Moray Commemoration March up to Ormonde Hill. And that's the hill we're going to climb. And that hill up there is where we're off to, Ormonde Hill, to raise the saltire for Andrew de Moray. And here comes our band of patriots. Woo!
After party.
Nearly there. Just over there.
It's not to do with the song or the thing, you could see that with the books, right? Aye, we got a good crack because the barman in the place.
Andrew de Moray was with William Wallace, but he died when they were fighting, and that's why people don't seem to hear so much. It's always remember William Wallace, because he still lived after the battle.
Good man. That's what I do. I throw so many stones every week so often. At the bottom of the hill, and then whoever coming up, bring them up with me. We'll get there eventually, eh? Here you kid.
Okay?
Thanks, mate. you want the proper presentation of the players, right?
Well, we'll just...
Well, what I'm going to do is,
You can build that next one.
a minute silence for Neil, who died. And he'd been taken to the harbour at St. Valerie, and it should have been Casavac because the French were, he was lying on the stretcher, the French were very demonstrative when they were kissing him. So he got fed up with this, he threw the blanket over his head. And of course the paramedics thought he was dead, so they left him on the quay. Otherwise he could have been back to the UK. Consequently, he was captured by the Germans, and they took him to Rouen in France, where he was patched up, and then finally transported to Poznan, the prisoner of war camps in Poznan in Poland. He survived the death march from Poznan to Germany, and truly a real gentleman, a real soldier. As you probably can see, the flag's at half mast, and who will I get to take it down? Would you like to take it down, Ted? Take the flag down. Good man. And as
No, it's not going to come out.
I'll undo it there. As the flag comes down, we're going to get Mitch Reid, who's our official piper, and he's got to play a tune that apparently Neil enjoyed. A minute silence, please. Thank you.
It's great to be back at Ormonde Hill for this commemoration, which in Avoch has been going since the 1930s, and we carry on that tradition. And we welcome our friends from the Society of William Wallace and all folks who've come here just now. I suppose it's appropriate to start off by quoting Shakespeare. And Shakespeare wrote in the words of John of Gaunt, "England is now bound in with shame, with rotten parchment bonds. That England that was wont to conquer others hath made a shameful conquest of itself." These are such prophetic words in these days today. But throughout history, people on this side of the border have had a different view. And the first of these I'm going to quote to you is Robert Burns. He said, "The story of Wallace poured a tide of Scottish prejudice into my veins, which will boil along there till the floodgates of life shut in eternal rest." He, like many other people, would come from an ordinary cotter's home or a small farm, and there'd be two books in the house. One, the Bible, and two, Hamilton's translation of Blind Harry in practically every house in Scotland. And Hugh Miller of Cromarty in my schools and schoolmasters, he said, "My Uncle James has procured for me from a neighbour the loan of a common stall edition of Blind Harry's Wallace as modernised by Hamilton. I was intoxicated with the fiery narratives of the blind minstrel, with his fierce breathings of hot and intolerant patriotism and his stories of astonishing prowess, and glorying in being a Scot and the countrymen of Wallace and Graham, I longed for a war with the Southron, that the wrongs and sufferings of these noble heroes might be avenged." So it was the case that so many people until the 20th century had forgotten about Andrew de Moray. And it wasn't until just before the First World War that Evan MacLeod Barron wrote his history of the Wars of Independence and evened things up. And he ended up the first edition by saying, "May I venture to express the hope that ardent patriots of the ultra-Scottish type will not leap to the conclusion that in these pages I have sought to pluck a rose from the chaplet of Wallace. If I have done anything, I may claim, on the contrary, to have resuscitated the memory of another patriot whose name is worthy to rank with the immortal name of Wallace in Scottish hearts, and to have added another hero to the gallery of heroes in the national Valhalla. It was Andrew de Moray's fate to die young and to die unsung, but that is no reason why the historian should not accord his true place in the history of his country, or why the most ardent worshippers of Wallace should begrudge him the fame which is justified to him." These are totally prophetic words, and I think to bring it to this century, just before 1997, it was said, we'll drink a toast to Scotland yet, whatever yet may be. That's where we are today.
Well said, Rob. He came practically every year, and he died 2 years ago. And this sword is his sword. He donated it and he had it engraved. He also did the same for the Society of William Wallace. He also, we and the Wallace Society had benefited from money he had given to us. So as a little gesture even, trying to cheat in, they made a little plaque for him. So I'm going to do this wee plaque. There you are. And it simply says, Roddy Matheson Hines, poet and friend, because he was a poet too. And Charlie Macaulay Robertson, people probably tell you both of them were poets, and they used to get on quite well together when they came here. Anyway, that's a wee memorial to him. Right.
Who's a Greek academic, doctor, actress and author. And one of the books she wrote was a book called The Boy in the Well of Memory, and it's subtitled The Story of Andrew de Moray. Now it's a novel, and it's done in a very unusual Greek way. There's a Greek tradition called the Orthic tradition, where after a person dies, the soul can live on in numerous people for many years to come, until they go through what is known as the 9 laws of nature. So Dina, as she is known, Dina wrote this book in English. She's a Greek lady. She wrote it in English because she was so fascinated by the story of Andrew de Moray, the concept of freedom that de Moray and Wallace fought and died for, that she wrote this book a few years ago. I know she's going to be chuffed to bits that I've been allocated or awarded, if you like, the privilege of reading a little bit of her book here. So the book actually comes as written by the soul of Andrew de Moray. So if you bear with me just a little bit, that's appropriate to why we are here today. In Dina's words, as the soul of Andrew de Moray. And that morning with the rising sun came all who were able to do so, men, women, young and old, to Avoch. The lads from the villages were enthusiastic, feeling it was the call they really wanted. With the first peal of the bells, they started towards the castle. There, outside the walls, Andrew, on his black horse, with his sword at his side, was wearing a light tabard of de Moray House, blue with white stars, as was de Moray's coat of arms. Around them clustered more riders and others on foot from the castle. Not so very many, perhaps 50. Too many of the warriors of Avoch had fallen or were taken prisoners at Dunbar. The people gathered. Andrew looked into their faces with blazing eyes. He leant over and kissed the blue and white banner beside him and spoke. My brothers, I am Andrew de Moray. Let it not seem strange to you that I have abandoned the luxurious trappings of a laird for the simple warrior's tabard. The situation calls for it. I have called you here only to say a few words to you about our mother Alaba and our plans. We are all Alaba's children, and we must fight all together to drive out the English conqueror from upon us. Whoever can hold a sword, come with us. Come as we unite our strength for a strong blow to our enemy. And you elders who can no longer hold a sword, and you my sisters and my mothers, daughters of Alaba, who will stay back here, I beg you to stand up in our places to govern our land and our villages. There is no authority in our country. The old power, the throne of Scotland, the throne of John Balliol, is now the English one's. Neither our people nor our homeland nor God's justice have any meeting to the lords appointed to govern us. The English conqueror controls them. They are Edward's puppets, his bond slaves to preserve and increase their wealth. The English dominate us with their henchmen. We can expect nothing good from them, none of us, no matter if we are noble or poor. They can appropriate our property, whether it is great or small. They can torment us. They will play havoc with us at their whim. Their orders are carried out by that army of subservient lairds. Brothers, there is no other army to defend the real you, the people of Alaba and your rights, but for ours here and William Wallace's men in the south. Join us. You are Scots. Follow us. Come all together to crush the tyrant conqueror. Until the wolf and the fox carry him off away and he takes his fruit from our sacred soil, his together with his henchmen, and only the people remain in command here. You, children of Alaba, masters and lords of yourselves, take the reins in your own hands, so that your children may eat a morsel of sweet bread tomorrow in peace, and you govern your homeland yourselves, as is fit. Come, let us bring freedom and justice to our children. Let us bring freedom and justice so our children can live like Scotsmen and human beings. Sure Alaba. So those are the words of Constantino Rizzi.
Thank you.
The next man who's going to speak is George Kempick, who is Secretary.
This is George Kempick, the Secretary of the
By the
Society
way,
of William
George
Wallace.
always brings the flag. The Society of William Wallace donate the flag every year and have done so since 1997.
First question, can anybody see my glasses in here? Oh, this is going
In the spoon.
It is.
Reading glasses,
Yeah. 2.5. Thanks, Dave. Thanks very much, Neil. Now, really I haven't read that book, but I think I'm going to try and get a copy of that. That sounds fantastic. It's an honour to be asked to speak here today. I promise not to cry. This is a commemoration I've only managed to attend on 2 previous occasions, but one I've tried attending every year since I first attended only 4 years ago, and one I recommend wholeheartedly to people I meet at the various commemorations down in the lowlands. One such commemoration takes place earlier in the month in Loudon Hill, a battle site that gained some prominence as the last battle scene in the film Outlaw King. As I'm sure some of you will know, the Society of William Wallace present a saltire in honour of the famous connection between William Wallace and Andrew de Moray. A tradition, I believe, started by a previous convener, Duncan Fenton. This year, I hope a new tradition has become part of this great tradition. The Andrew de Moray saltire was flown 2 weeks ago at Loudon Hill, on the 11th of May, which was the last commemoration Duncan attended before he died 5 years ago, on today's date, 25th of May 2014. And we hope this idea pleases everyone gathered here today. Speaking at these commemorations, I can't help but think of the people who have spoken in the years previous. I've heard some pretty inspirational stuff, none more so than from our dearly departed friend Duncan Fenton. A man I first heard speak at the declaration of Arbroath commemoration in 2011. I didn't even know then what the Society of William Wallace was about, something I personally find hard to believe, knowing how I've always felt about Scotland's history and how it's been continually lambasted and held down by Westminster. Something Wallace, de Moray and Duncan knew about fine well. Duncan spoke that day at an event full of political references made by other speakers, and he spoke of the history. He spoke of the reason we were actually gathered there, and inspired me to find out more. It's something that stayed with me, and although I've never felt even one word of what I've said in any of my speeches lived up to that example, I try, and I know Duncan would have liked that. I would like to pay tribute and recommend you to the cultural heritage group Krantara, who I've used to source some of the information I'm about to share with you all. In 2011, I'm embarrassed to admit I never even knew who Andrew de Moray was, never mind the important part he played in the wars of Scottish independence. Indeed, some of the battles that there is no record of that even Wallace fought in, like Dunbar, where Andrew was captured. I personally have not found anything that documents de Moray and Wallace's first meeting, other than when de Moray led the great and aspiring North Rising, and Wallace requested he joined him as soon as possible so that their united forces could challenge the English army. To wit, then Andrew Moray then sped south on Drove roads, meeting up with Wallace at the Five Stones on the Drovers' meeting place, now known as Sheriff Muir, near Perth, in mid-August 1297. Was that their first meeting? We all know they were both at Stirling Bridge, shortly before the battle on the 11th of September, probably with de Moray in the most senior position of command, with Wallace second in command. This is not to demote Wallace's status as a great leader of men and patriot. No one could take these accolades away from him, and I'm certainly not qualified enough to promote that idea. It's just what we're learning with the passing of time. Andrew de Moray outranked him, and he had a greater knowledge of battle tactics, and was an original thinker, able to take immediate advantage of his enemy's mistakes. Ah, Stirling Bridge, what could have been? We'll never know. Yes, a great and famous victory, but with de Moray and Wallace's victory soured by the grievous wounding of de Moray, who was found lying amongst the slain after the battle, from where he would most likely have been taken to Carbaskenneth Abbey for immediate medical treatment. This must have been partially successful, as we next hear of Andrew de Moray in Haddington on the 11th of October in 1297, when he signed a letter to the merchants of Lubeck and Hamburg. The Lubeck letter has survived the seals and reads: Andrew de Moray and William Wallace, leaders of the army of the Kingdom of Scotland and the community of the same kingdom, to the prudent and discreet men and well-beloved friends, the mayors and common of Lubeck and Hamburg, greeting and increase always of sincere friendship. It has been told to us by trustworthy merchants of the said Kingdom of Scotland that you, of all your goodwill, are giving your counsel, aid and favour in all matters and transactions touching us, and the said merchants, although our merits had not deserved this, and so all the more we are bound to you, to give you our thanks and worthy recompense, whereto we willingly engage ourselves to you, and request you that you will please to make it known amongst your merchants that they can have safe access to all ports of the Kingdom of Scotland. and with the merchants and with the merchandise. For the Kingdom of Scotland, God be thanked, has been recovered by war from the power of the English. Farewell. Given at Haddington in Scotland on the 11th day of October in the year of grace 1297. We further request you have the goodness to forward the business of your merchant John Burnett and John Frere, according as you wish us to forward the business of your merchants. Farewell, given as before. That translation, although it may have sounded a bit strange, was as it was translated by Dr. Alan Borthwick of the National Records of Scotland in June 2012. Exactly a week later, the Scots invaded England. Although there is only circumstantial evidence, it is believed Andrew de Moray, despite his weakened state, marched with them where he could quite honourably have stayed at home to recuperate. It must have been quite soon after, or around the 10th of November 1297, that Andrew de Moray died. No doubt he was weak from his wounds and totally exhausted with nearly a month's hard campaigning. In those circumstances, even the cold and dampness could have been the final straw, and his weakened body gave up the uneven struggle. So, as I said earlier, what could have been? What if de Moray had lived and maybe had been at Falkirk? It's my bet the terrible outcome of that battle might have been very different. There are so many what ifs. That might include the lesser positioning of Wallace on the pages of Scottish history. And possibly Mel Gibson wouldn't have won his 5 Oscars for Braveheart. That film that he might have made might have been called De Moray. We'll never know. But what we do know is this. Andrew de Moray is one of Scotland's greatest heroes and patriots. We have a duty to organise commemorations like this one and fight to have monuments built in his honour. If we fail, don't blame the government. Don't blame the council. Blame yourselves. Do as de Moray and Wallace did. Fight and win. Build armies of people willing and able to tell the stories of these great men. Build armies of children inspired by the stories of these great men. And in my opinion, you'll build a great nation. The nation we know and love, the land of the Scots, Scotland. Abba-gabba.
Thanks very much, George. Good job.
And there we go. Well, that's the end of the service and the speeches. And there flies the new saltire high above Ormonde Hill. And just as we're all leaving, the rain starts. Good Scottish rain. Straight across, not up and down. As we all go marching back into town. And for tonight's Ceilidh, led by Ted Christopher and young Mitchell on his pipes. Absolutely wonderful. There you go, that's the Moray Firth. Way right across from us is the old Norboard factory. And you can just see the smoke coming from it. Absolutely wonderful. Another fantastic service. So thank you very much to Neil and to Rob, and especially to Charlie for putting it all together.